Hello, hello, hello. I'm back with another family chart. So I seem to go months and even years between doing these family charts, and then I do loads all at once. So I get the taste for it and then I'm hyper focused and that's it. So this is for the 100 set of Luminance pencils. So I think Luminance started out with a 76 set as their maximum and then they added colours to it. I don't know whether you can get a whole set of 100 now or whether you have to buy the extras separately, but anyhow, this contains all 100 pencils sorted into families. Now, if you've seen my family chart videos before, you will know that this is, while comprehensive, not perfect because there are a lot of colours missing. 100 pencils nowadays isn't really that many in terms of shades, and there are definite mid-tones missing in this set. So I've put the colours where I think they best go. Doesn't mean that is their perfect placement within the families. So I really hope again that you find it useful. That's why I do this. Obviously I do it for my own purposes as well. I love to have my own family chart to reference, but I share it for free purely because I want everyone to be able to access it and find it useful and be able to better use their coloured pencils, especially when it's a set that you've spent an awful lot of money on, like the Luminance. So free download in the description box below. I'll move on now to exactly how and why I put the colours in the positions they're in, and I will see you at the end. So we start with the yellows. Now, even though I've used Caran Luminance pencils for years now and thought I was pretty au fait with the colours, I was still surprised doing this chart at how little yellows we've actually got, real yellows. We've only got 3 that would really be classed in my eye as actual yellows. So they've been clubbed together here and you'll see a few more of the yellowish tones later on in the ochres. Then we have the oranges through to the reds. And I did wonder if cornelian might go after apricot in one of the later groups, but I just think it's that little bit too red for the delicate tones of the apricot family. These are very deep reds with a brownish undertone. And these are reds that have got an equally pink and sort of orangey undertone as well. It was very difficult to know where to place these, but I believe that this is the best place for them. These two are the purplish reds, so they're mainly predominantly red with a bit of a purple undertone, and then the ultramarine pink and the quinacridone purple, if I'm saying that right, definitely are purples with a reddish undertone. These two were very difficult to place because they were purples that have got a lot of grey in them. They're very desaturated, so they've gone in a little section of their own. These are the violet blues or blue violets. They are predominantly purple with a definite blue undertone, and the manganese violet was just one of those colours, like I get with every family chart, that didn't want to go anywhere. It's too purple to go with the ultramarine pink, and it's too kind of reddish and pinkish to go with these violet tones, but that's the only place I could put it apart from leaving it on its own. Another colour that was the bane of my life during this was the ultramarine, because it just doesn't fit with any of the cobalts. It's got a little bit too much sort of purplish colour in it for that. It doesn't fit with any of the green blues because there's not really much green in it. And the blues that I'm showing you now that have got purple in, again, it's not really got enough purple in it to fit. So just one of those colours. The Prussian blue has quite a bit of green in it, but not enough green to go in with the blue greens. So again, that was another colour that I've just had to slot in here. This isn't the best of the family groups, I must admit, but I did my absolute best to put them where I thought they should go. Finally, a lovely true blue blend that just goes perfectly together and caused me no problems whatsoever. The middle cobalt blue is quite similar to the phthalocyanine blue, but again, the phthalo just wouldn't have fit in with these. So when you're doing combinations of colours from Luminance, you will be able to put different colours from different families together and they will blend nicely. But trying to make them into their own category, you just have to make those decisions on what goes where. And these are the 3 that I felt stood best together. Another one that didn't seem to want to go anywhere was the chrysocolla blue. It does go quite nicely with the turquoise blue, although the chrysocolla is very vibrant and bright and the turquoise has a lot of grey in it. But again, just one of those colours. Again, this is another family group that's a little bit tetchy. I'm not sure whether they're supposed to be here or not, but they don't go anywhere else. So there are some desaturated blues in here. You've got the turquoise and the grey blue. The light blue as well has quite a bit of grey in it. And the ice blue, although it looks pretty green, wouldn't go in the next category, which is the bluish greens. So here it stays. These are amongst some of my favourite Luminance colours. I do love those parrot greens. The beryl green is absolutely beautiful and it goes perfectly with the light malachite. You could skip out the dark English green and go light malachite, beryl and malachite, but the malachite has an awful lot of blue in it, more so than the beryl green does. So I felt that the dark English green just fit in better between those two, despite them looking quite different to each other. One is definitely more green and one's definitely more blue. Then we have our desaturated greyish greens. Again, some beautiful tones here. The middle verdigris, very, very pale, desaturated mint colour. The cobalt green is gorgeous. And the dark sap green, I didn't know whether that's where this one was going to go, but I looked at the Caran chart and from their pictures, which are obviously very high quality swatches, this one definitely had more of a green in it than the dark English green, which was more of a blue. There really needs to be a few more tones between the spring green and the grass green because it is quite a big difference. And then you've got the dark cyanine green, which again, this was just the best place to put it. So there really does need to be a few more greens slotted in there. Here's another family that don't know where it needs to be. So the olive yellow was far too green to be in with the yellows or any of the ochres. And yet it doesn't really fit next to this chromium oxide green, but that chromium oxide green doesn't go with any of the other greens. So these were sort of clubbed together with the moss green. The olive yellow and the moss green definitely are within that same family, but the chromium oxide just had to sit there really. There's nowhere else for it to go. And you can blend the olive yellow with the chromium oxide and you can blend the olive with the moss, and vice versa with the chrome and the moss. So you can do blends there. It just doesn't look to the eye as if it's a real family blend when you look at the three of them together. Things get a little bit easier from here on because helpfully Caran have put some of their main brown colours into percentages. And this is one of them. So brown olive might be called olive brown on your pencils. It is on mine, but I did look at the official chart and it's now called brown olive. There have been some name changes, so I've tried to put those on the chart if and when they occur. So yes, these are very much greenish undertoned browns. And here are the ochres. So you'll notice the bismuth yellow comes in first. That one was too much of an ochre colour to go with the original three yellows that we have at the top of the chart. So I've put it here next to the Indian yellow, which is a terrible pencil. It's full of brown speckles, and maybe that's what it's meant to look like. It's supposed to be very rustic, and but it's weird for me because the pigment seems to separate. Anyhow, we have the bismuth, the Indian, and then we go into more brownish ochres. So yellow ochre, raw sienna, and the green ochre, another one of those that didn't really want to go anywhere else. It is far too yellow to go with the brown olives, but there's nowhere else to put it. This is an interesting one because they're very pale, pastel-y sort of peach tones. So what you would imagine if you thought about the tone peach. The primrose is not a yellow. It looks like it is, but when you put it next to all the three yellows at the beginning, it definitely has a different class of colour to it. And I felt that it better sat next to the white than the yellows did, because there would be a big gap between the white and the lemon yellow. So we've got the white, the primrose, Naples ochre, butternut, which is actually called light flesh on my pencils, but they've changed the name. And then the apricot, which earlier we spoke about whether the cornelian could have gone behind the apricot here, but no, it doesn't fit properly. So that is where I've put these. Now, some of them are a little orangier than others, and some of them, like the primrose, are slightly more yellow than others, but I feel that this is a category that needed to be on its own. So we're back to our percentage shades here. We've got our brown ochres, which is where those yellow ochres start to turn definitively more brown, and yet they're still a little too reddish to be classed as, within the deep browns. So I made a bit of a mistake here and put the terracotta in between the 50% and the burnt ochre colours. I've seen on doing this chart that it actually fits better on the next family, so by the time you've downloaded this chart in the description, it will all be fixed for you. And here's where I ended up putting it, in between the Herculanum red and the russet, so it definitely is a little bit more orangey than it is brown, so I guess that's why it wouldn't fit in between the burnt ochres. These are the desaturated pinky purpley colours that again wouldn't go up there with the bright and vibrant ones. Really like these tones, very dusky, delicate, sort of vintage type colours. Following on from those pinks, we have a very pinkish brown set of colours. We've got the buff titanium, which is usually put at the start of a set of luminance. It goes with the white. Because it's kind of a creamy colour, but it's not cream. If you put it next to, say, the lemon yellow, you can just see that it's not part of that family. Again, like the primrose, it doesn't fit there. Neither does it fit next to the primrose, really. So it's gone here because I feel like it's got that same warm undertone as the burnt siennas have. You probably could put pink white here as well, because that's, again, got pink in it. But I just felt that that went better with the anthraquinoid pink at the start. These colours aren't really among my favourites. The Warm Earth 5% and 40%, also known as Dark Flesh, are fine. They are quite interchangeable. I wouldn't say that it's a 5% and a 40%. The 5% is far too deep and dark. So yeah, they're very, very similar in colour. The Warm Earth, also known as the Dark Flesh, and the Castle Earth are two terrible colours. A lot like the Indian yellow, the pigment is very separate to the binder. It has a very grainy look, and yeah, it's not smooth, and they're colours that I barely ever use. These raw umbers could have gone up with the brown olive, but I feel like they're just about to verge onto French grey territory. The raw umber 10% is very much like a putty beige, if you're familiar with the Prismacolor set of pencils, and I just feel that this is where it's at. It's not a warm group of colours whatsoever, so I feel like it fits better over at this end of the chart with the French greys. Of course, these colours now are all in percentages, so fairly self-explanatory. And then we've got the silver grey, steel grey and slate grey. So these are definitely greys that have... I say definitely, and then I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, do they? The silver grey is kind of a bluish grey, as is the steel grey. But when compared to the Payne's grey, which is definitely a blue grey, they don't look like they are, but they all kind of are. I think the silver grey, steel grey and slate grey make a good blend, even though there needs to be some in-between mid-tones there because they are pretty far apart in tone. But yeah, the Payne's grey definitely has a blue tinge to it, and they more likely go into the black than the previous set of 3 greys. So you could put the black at the end of the slate grey combination, but I just feel like it goes better there. But if you try and slot the silver, the steel and the slate in with the Payne's grey, it doesn't fit. So they are completely different greys. And maybe we could have done with some more warm greys, because obviously the French grey does have that brownish tone to it, but we are lacking a lot of greys here, to be honest. So there we go. That is all the reasoning behind the Luminance family chart. It does take absolutely ages and it is a massive headache to do this, but it's always worth it when it's done. I only have to do it once, and yeah, I really, again, hope that you find it useful. Do let me know in the comments, and don't forget to download it in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon on Colour with Claire.